Assalamu alaikum. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about algae and fungi. Algae and fungi are two of the most important parts of the ecosystems of the world. Both are very abundant living organisms present on planet Earth and makes a very important part of biosphere. We will talk about algae and fungi one by one. First of all, we talk about algae. Algae, single is alga, singular alga and plural algae. These are the living organisms which are one of the most important group of producers on Earth, because these organisms are photosynthetic. They convert inorganic carbon to organic carbon using sunlight as the energy source. Algae are the organisms which ranges in size from unicellular microscopic to very large seaweeds, which ranges up to about 100 meters in length in their height. So there is a wide variety of the group of organisms, the living organisms called algae, present on the planet Earth. Algae are the most important producers of the biosphere. Producers mean that they are autotrophic and they produce their own food utilizing the sunlight as energy source and the carbon dioxide, that is inorganic carbon, as the carbon source, and produces the chemical form of energy, ATP, for themselves and carbohydrates for themselves as food and for other organisms as well. Algae provide food for various organisms in the food webs and the food chains in all the ecosystems, particularly the water ecosystems. In lakes, in oceans, in ponds, algae makes the most important part of the producers, because all the other organisms which are consumers include the animal-like protists, the small animals, herbivore, fish. They all depend for their food on algae. They are dependent upon algae for their organic food source, because these are the heterotroph. They have to take their energy in the form of organic carbon molecules from some producers. Algae utilizes carbon dioxide, and they are the most important producers of the oxygen, because we know they are photosynthetic. They utilizes carbon dioxide and they produces oxygen. So they are the most important contributors of oxygen to the environment, planet Earth. And we know that oxygen is necessary for the living beings, for human beings, for animals, because they use oxygen in their respiration, and without oxygen there is no life which could survive. Secondly, they utilizes carbon dioxide. We know that carbon dioxide is one of the most important gases which causes the greenhouse effect, that is, increase in the temperature of the earth. And because these organisms utilizes carbon dioxide, they actually reduces the greenhouse effect. Algae are the source of various foods and other materials for other living beings, including the human beings. For example, from algae we produce many cosmetics. From many algal products, certain ice creams are also produced. From algae, gelatin-like materials are obtained. So algae are utilized in so many things, and on top of the list, we can make certain fuels, ethanol, from algae, because we know that the world is facing a fuel shortage, and this shortage is going to increase in coming years. So algae are very important source of biofuels. Biofuels means that the fuels which are obtained from living organisms. Algae thrived on Earth from the last 1.5 billion years, and they are widely spread all over the planet Earth. Now we talk about the distinguishing characteristics of algae. Number one, they are photosynthetic. Algae carry out photosynthesis, utilizes sunlight as energy source, convert inorganic carbon into organic carbon as the food source, and it means that they are the autotrophic organisms. They are producers. We call them autotroph. Auto, self. Troph, food. They feed themselves. They produce their own food. Secondly, algae are eukaryotic organisms. They have a true nucleus. We know that organisms are of two kinds. They consist of two kinds of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The prokaryotic, who do not have a true nucleus, that is, their nucleus is actually not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. And the eukaryotic, who have a true nucleus, that is, their nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Algae are eukaryotic. They are eukaryotic organisms. Sizes of algae. Their size ranges from microscopic unicellular algae, very, very large seaweeds, the length of which, or we can say the height of which, reaches up to 100 meters. Algae, how can we classify algae? We can classify algae based upon their energy storage products, based upon their cell wall structure, based upon their pigments that they produce. So we can classify algae in various ways. Importantly, algae have a cell wall. We know that animal cells do not have a cell wall. Prokaryotic cells do have a cell wall. Plant cells also do have a cell wall. Algae also have cell wall, and their cell wall matches more in its structure with the plants. Its cell wall consists of mainly the material called cellulose. This is the same material with which the cell walls of the plants are produced. Now we have a look at how can we classify algae into various groups commonly. Algae. They are classified broadly many times, or most of the times, based upon the pigments that they produce. Algae produces different types of pigments, due to which they appear in different beautiful colors. We know some major ones: the green algae, the red algae, the brown algae, golden brown algae, and the euglenids. Algae also have certain important characteristics. They reproduce both by asexual and sexual means. By asexual means, they normally reproduce by the help of the process called mitosis, because we know they are eukaryotic organisms, and when eukaryotic organisms divide, they divide by the process of mitosis, which is actually division of their nucleus. So asexually, they reproduce by mitosis. Sexual reproduction in algae though takes place, but it takes place only during the environmental stress. Normally, they reproduce, that is, they produce their young ones with the help of mitosis, that is cell division, simple cell division. But whenever there is an environmental stress, they need to make spores for some time to tolerate that harsh environment, or which is we can say intolerable environment for some time. They produce two types of gametes, which are named as plus gametes and minus gametes. These gametes fuse to form the zygospore. Zygospore remains there in this form, which is actually more protected from the environmental conditions until better conditions come. When the environmental conditions they become favorable, then meiosis occur in the zygospore, and it give rise to again the haploid, that is n number of chromosomes in the zygospore's products, that is the cells, and each cell then give rise to unicellular algae or a multicellular colony. Let's have a look on a unicellular algae, the top one, and on the other side you can observe colonial algae. The top one is called Euglena, which is very common in most of the pond waters, and the other one is volvox. You can observe a large colony and daughter colonies present inside that volvox organism. The larger colony, the parent colony, we can say. Then these colonies grow. Then they separate from the parent colony and give rise to a newer colony. So algae are unicellular, that is, they can stay as a single cell, and they can stay in colonies, in groups or aggregates of organisms. Now we talk about different types of algae and their characteristics. We know that algae are widely characterized or widely grouped or classified based upon the pigments that they produce. Algae produces green pigments, they produces red pigments, brown pigments, goldish brown pigments. We call them green algae if they produces the green pigments. Very common pigments: chlorophyll, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. These are the same pigments which are produced by the plants. Algae also have the same pigments, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. So some scientists assume that the land plants which have the same pigments as algae, they may have arisen from these green algae, which also have same type of cell wall as the higher plants do have, the green plants do have, the land plants, and they also have both types of chlorophylls, that is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. And both the algae and the land plants, they also carry out photosynthesis. They are producers. They are autotrophic organisms, that is, they make their own food. So their many characteristics match. Green algae are amongst the most widely distributed algae on Earth. There are about 7,000 species of green algae present on Earth. We can see on the surface of various ponds and surface of various lakes, very large, huge scums. That is a layer on the surface, covering the top layer of the water, which is green in color. That is actually the green algae, and it provides food for all the food webs and food chains in the water body, maybe lake, maybe pond, maybe sea, or an ocean. Green algae are the source of different types of products. Sometimes a bigger mass of algae could be converted for making, or we can say some products could be extracted out of larger masses of green algae. Some cosmetic products, some gelatin-like materials which are used in certain different types of foods. Green algae also have very important role in reducing the greenhouse effect. Now we know that the greenhouse effect means that the temperature of the earth is rising due to presence of certain gases in the atmosphere. Now carbon dioxide is one of the important gases which are involved in the greenhouse effect. Algae can help a lot in reducing the greenhouse effect by reducing the carbon dioxide in the environment. It is said that about 2 tons of algae can utilize about 1 ton of carbon dioxide and convert it into oxygen. So, and secondly, this large algal biomass have another benefit. We can convert it into fuels by various methods. We can convert it into alcohols, ethanol, and we know that ethanol, the alcohols, they are one of the most important forms of the biofuels. We can also convert this algal biomass into biodiesel. So green algae is one of the most important group of algae which are widely distributed, which are present almost in every part of the world, and they are very useful as part of the ecosystem, and they can reduce the greenhouse effect. They can produce more oxygen reduce carbon dioxide, and they could be used to extract the biofuels. Now we talk about other kinds of algae. Red algae. Red algae are also a very widely distributed form of algae. There are about 4,000 species of red algae present in the world. They have specific type of pigment called phycobilin, which give them a red color. This pigment is water soluble. Most of the other algal pigments, they are not water soluble, and they could be dissolved or we can say mixed up only with the organic solvents, that is alcohol and acetone, etc. But the red pigment, phycobilins, they are soluble in water as water. These gives a red color to these algae. Red algae are mainly present in oceans, in seas, that is the large huge water bodies, and these algae are used to produce many cosmetic products. Many cosmetics products are extracted from these red algae. Red algae are also source of one more very important material, gelatin-like material. We know that when we have to solidify certain foods, like in the form of jellies, we can say we have to make jellies, jelly-like materials. We need some agent that help in making those gels, that is converting material into jelly-like materials. Initially, an animal-based material, that is a material extracted from animals named gelatin, was used for doing this process. But we know gelatin have very high fatty fat content, and this is not good for health. And some people also do not like to use animal-based products. For those people, these gelatin-like materials from red algae are used in making all the jelly-like food materials and other related materials. Now we talk about the brown algae. Brown algae have about 1,500 species. They include the very, very large, huge seaweeds and the other weeds. Their height, their length, sometimes reaches about 100 meters. They are that long. They are also mostly present in seas or oceans. They are mainly marine. They have different kinds of pigments which give them a brownish color. These are very, very important for the scientific community, because from these seaweeds particularly, we extract a very important material called agar, or sometimes called agar-agar. This material is extremely important because this is used to culture the microorganisms. Whenever we need to culture microorganisms on a solid surface, we provide them with certain nutrients. But to convert those nutrients which are in a liquid form in a solid form, that is converting them into a gel-like form, we need to use agar. Agar is a product of seaweeds. It is extracted from seaweeds. So, before using agar, all the other materials which were used to solidify the microbiological media, in which, that is media, or we can say nutrient media, in which we can culture microorganisms like bacteria and some other microorganisms. These materials were very costly, like gelatin, sometimes starch. These materials were, number one, very costly, and number two, they were very difficult to use. Discovery of agar was one of the revolutionary steps in the history of microbiology. So microorganisms are normally cultured on a solid surface medium, which is actually solidified with the help of material called agar, which is extracted from the seaweeds. Then we talk about the golden brown algae. Golden brown algae are comparatively less widely distributed. They are present in marine environments, that is in oceans. And these algae are used to make some petroleum products. For making some petroleum products, golden brown algae can help us. Then comes the euglenoids. We know commonly a very common microorganism of a pound, euglena. If we get a sample from pond water and observe it under the microscope, we usually find out certain small microorganisms which are moving very fast and have some green colored material inside them. These are the euglena. Euglenoids. The euglenoid group have many other microorganisms, that is microscopic unicellular algae. These have sometimes animal-like properties and sometimes they have some plant-like properties. So euglenoids are parts of pond ecosystems, that is mostly the freshwater ecosystems or the lake ecosystems. Euglenoids are the producers of freshwater ecosystems mostly. That is, they carry out photosynthesis and they provide a source of food for the animal-like microorganisms of the pond or the lake, and hence they help in the food chain, or we can say they make the start or beginning of the food chain in fresh waters. Now we know that algae are usually broadly classified based upon their pigments because this is visible to us, but we also classify algae based upon their cellular organization, that is how their cells are organized. We classify them based upon their cellular organization into three types: the unicellular algae, the filamentous algae, and the colonial algae. The unicellular algae are those algal species which lives as single organisms. For example, euglena. Euglena lives as in pond water or in a lake's water. All of the euglena, euglena organisms we can say, lives as single organisms, and these are microscopic. Chlamydomonas is another example. Then comes the filamentous algae. Filamentous algae are the multicellular algae which lives or which makes long filaments, which are mostly septated, which have septa. Here in the diagram you can see a filamentous algae called Spirogyra. This is a very common algae of the ponds near Lahore and in mostly Pakistan and many areas of the world. So the filamentous algae, they appear under microscope just like long thin filaments. Then comes the colonial algae. Look at a picture. It shows you volvox, another very common algae which is present in most of the ponds water, in water of the lakes. Volvox makes rounded circular colonies, and the daughter colonies, the newer cells, grows inside the parent colony, that is the larger colony. And when they grow to a specific size, then they are released from the colony and they make their own mature large colony. So based upon the cellular organization, we divide algae into three groups: unicellular algae, the multicellular and filamentous algae, and the colonial algae. Now about the distribution and significance of algae. Though we already talked about different kinds of algae, but we summarize it. Algae are widely distributed all over the world. Green algae being the most abundant form of algae upon Earth, present in almost all types of water bodies. Red algae are mostly distributed in the marine waters. The brown algae are also mainly distributed in marine waters. Golden algae are almost exclusively marine. They are present in the waters of ocean. They are very important for us because they reduces the greenhouse effect. They utilizes carbon whenever they are present in no matter which type of environment they are present. They utilizes the carbon dioxide gas and convert this carbon dioxide gas into carbohydrates as their own food. In this way, they reduces carbon dioxide from the environment. And secondly, when they carry out photosynthesis, just like plants, they releases oxygen in the environment. So, and we know that oxygen is a necessary gas which is required by the animals and other organisms for their respiration, for their life processes. Red algae, these are used to produce different types of products, includes cosmetics and certain types of foods. The brown algae, they are specifically used for making agar, that is from weeds, and they are also used for some salad dressings. Some types of these brown algae, they are also used as salad dressings. The small parts are used in foods. Then the golden brown algae, they are very important. They are used in making some petroleum products. Euglenoids, they are important at their place because they are the main producers of the freshwater ecosystems. So in the freshwater ecosystems, euglenoids have to carry out photosynthesis, and without them, other organisms, animal like protists or fish and the other organisms cannot survive. Algal blooms, this is a common term that we hear in the seasons. When the organic matter, when the inorganic say carbon dioxide and sunlight is available to a good extent, then algae, they in specific season grow very well, and they appear as very beautiful scums or surfaces upon the waters. We call them algal blooms. So it means that algae are very important producers in many of the food chains and the food webs in ecosystem. They convert sunlight into energy into carbohydrates, and they help in reducing the greenhouse effect by absorbing the carbon dioxide from environment. They are used as human diet alternatives, that is in place of gelatin, their gelatin-like materials and agar are used. Weeds are parts of many salads. Some algae are used to make certain specific tastes in the ice creams. Other materials from algae are also used in making some desserts, that is the sweets of specific kinds. And agar, as we previously talked about, is the most important material for different types of microbiological preparations. Whenever we have to grow a microorganism on a solid surface, we have to convert our medium into a gel with the help of agar. You can see in the picture an agar plate on which microorganisms, bacteria, are growing. And we know that growing bacteria is extremely important because some bacteria, there are many bacteria which produces these different types of diseases in human beings, in animals, in plants. And there are different types of bacteria which are beneficial for us. For example, the bacteria which produces yogurt for us, the bacteria which produces different types of antibiotics, and some other important products like some hormones, insulin. So agar is a very useful material which is extracted from the brown algae, the seaweeds. Algal biofuels. This is one of the very important alternatives of the fossil fuels, which are thought to be, we think that they are going to be finished in coming years. And in the world, this is one of the most important type or kind of researches, that we need some fuels from biological materials. We know that algae, they are widely distributed. They grow very fast and they grow very well. And from algal biomass, we can extract biodiesel and we can extract ethanol. And we know that ethanol is an inflammable material and we can use it into petrol engines for running our vehicles. Even in United States, from ethanol, some aeroplanes could also be flied. So algae are the potential source of biofuels in near future. So this was about the algae, one of the most important producers on the planet Earth. and they make various products for us. Now the fungi, the second group. Fungi are the heterotrophs. That is, they need organic carbon source as their food material, and they are not able to convert the sunlight into energy or food. Fungi are also very widely distributed, present almost in all types of habitats. Their sizes ranges from microscopic fungi to very large ones. Microscopic fungi, for example, yeast. We commonly use yeast in our baking products. Whenever we bake, we use yeast. Yeast is a microscopic single cellular fungus. There are very large fungi. For example, there are very large and huge mushrooms. We know that they are sometimes and mushrooms, you know that these are the edible materials, but not all mushrooms are edible. Some mushrooms are very large. These are the heterotrophs, these are the symbionts, and these are the parasites. Heterotrophs, that is, they need their food material from producers, that is, from the organic source. They are symbionts. Usually, they make a symbiotic relationship, that is, a relationship of give and take with some other organisms. For example, there are some fungi which lives on the roots of plants or some other parts of say large trees, and they help those plants in absorbing materials from the surrounding soil, and from the plants they get their some parts of the food. They make a symbiotic relationship with many other kinds of organisms, particularly trees, that is, and plants and the algae. Many fungi are parasites. They also live as parasites. That is, they live inside or they live outside of the body of animals and plants, and they can sometimes produce disease in those animals and plants. Now we talk about some distinguishing features of fungi. Fungi are from unicellular to multicellular. As we previously mentioned, yeast is a unicellular fungus. We can see the bread molds. There are some, sometimes if we place our bread for longer time in outside the refrigerator, for example, in a room temperature, then we see that greenish or brownish material grows on it. These are the bread molds, the fungi, which grow upon that bread. There some part is penetrated inside the bread, and some other part is present outside that bread, and we can see a greenish rust or mass on the bread. They can also grow on other materials like different types of fruits. So fungi may be microscopic unicellular, and fungi may be macroscopic multicellular larger organisms. The body of the fungi made up of filamentous material. Their body consists, except for some unicellular fungi like yeast, body of the most of the fungi consists of long tubular filament, that is, long tube-like filaments, which sometimes may be septate, that is, they have septa, divisions in them. Sometimes they are non-septate, that is, they do not have any divisions in them. Sometimes they are uninucleated, sometimes they are multinucleated, that is, some have a single nucleus, some have more than one nuclei. So, the fungi are categorized into a different kingdom. We know that the organisms are on the planet Earth are classified into 5 kingdoms. Fungi makes a separate kingdom among the organisms, which is called the kingdom fungi. Fungi have a specific body if they are not unicellular, they are multicellular, which makes a filamentous appearance, that is, their body consists of filaments. These filaments are typically called hyphae. When there is a group of hyphae present together in an area, maybe in the soil, maybe in the say root of a plant. The collection of hyphae is called mycelium, which makes the body of the fungus. They reproduce, the fungi, they reproduce both by sexual and asexual means. Normally, they reproduce by asexual means. As we know that they are eukaryotes, they carry out mitosis to produce their young ones, that is the next generation. But sometimes they also sexually reproduce, and their life cycle consists of some in part asexual reproduction and in part the sexual reproduction. We have a look on their life cycle in a diagram. If you look at the diagram, there are two cycles which are running side by side. Here n means the haploid or the half number of chromosomes, and 2n means diploid or the double number of chromosomes. If we look at the side of asexual reproduction as they are labeled, then we can see that after germination of the spores, they produces mycelium, that is body of fungi as we previously described, that consist of various hyphae. This have n number of chromosomes, that is half number of chromosomes, and they live like this for a longer period of their life. Then these mycelia, they produces spores, and for production of the spores, they produces some spore producing structures. These spore producing structures also have n number of chromosomes, that is half number of chromosomes. These structures then produces spores. Those spores germinate to make the mycelia again. So this asexual reproduction life cycle is a life cycle in which all the organisms, that is all the forms of that particular fungus, are haploid, that is they have a half number of chromosomes. But they can enter into the sexual reproduction sometimes whenever it is required by the environmental conditions. What happened that we call this process a plasmogamy, that is the cytoplasm of two cells is fused. The filaments, they comes together in specific area, and the filaments of opposite mating types, they produces fusion tubes. With the help of these fusion tubes, their plasma, that is the cellular plasma, they fuses. We call it plasmogamy. When the plasmogamy occur, then that particular cell have two nuclei, one from one cell and one from the other cell. We call it a dikaryotic stage. That is, there are two nuclei present inside the cell, and both are haploid. Both have n number of chromosomes. After some time, karyogamy occur. Karyogamy means we know that karyo word means that something related to nucleus. After some time, karyogamy occur, and the result is the karyogamy means that both the nuclei which are haploid present in that cytoplasm, they are fused. When they are fused, they make a diploid nucleus which have 2n number of chromosomes, that is a say otherwise normal number of chromosomes. Though we know that most of the part of their life, the fungi lives in a haploid form. Then whenever the favorable conditions come, these diploid stage which have 2n number of chromosomes, carry out meiosis, and they again produce some spore producing structures. And because in this diploid stage meiosis occur, we know that the result of meiosis are the cells which have a half number of chromosomes in each nucleus. So the spore producing structures, because they are produced by the meiosis in the diploid stage, so they have a half number of chromosomes. And when they make spores, these spores also have a half number of chromosomes. These spores again germinate to form the mycelia, that is body of the fungus. So this is how a fungus carry out its life cycle. We have a look on some important groups of the fungi. There are certain phyla we talk about just some important ones which are commonly known. There is one phylum called Zygomycota. Zygomycota are some of the important phyla of the fungi, and they actually destroy our breads. They are called the bread molds. Rhizopus, for example, the black bread mold, that is, which makes our bread a rusty appearance when we put it in a humid place at room temperature for longer period. Then there is a group called Ascomycota, Ascomycetes sometimes, the family. They are the sac-like fungi. Their fruiting bodies or their spore-producing structures, they are like sacs. And also the Ascomycetes group, the Ascomycota phylum, also include the yeasts. And we know that yeasts are very important organisms. We produce many of the baking products using the yeast. Yeast also have certain important characteristics, and we talk about it in some time. Then comes the phylum Basidiomycota. These are called the club fungi. A very important group of fungi is included in this group called the mushrooms. We know that some mushrooms are edible, that is, we can eat them. They are a good source of proteins because their body consists of proteins. But we know that there are a lot many fungi, the mushrooms, which are highly poisonous. If someone eats them, they may instantly die. So it is really very difficult to find out that a particular type of mushroom is it poisonous or non-poisonous, and of course the experts can identify them. And fungi are cultured for food, the edible fungi, and they are very costly part of the food, sometimes used in salads, and sometimes we make various foods out of them. There are various dishes of mushrooms, we know that. There are other fungi called puffballs, bracket fungi, the rus and smuts, which are included in the club fungi, that is the Basidiomycota phylum. Rus, we know that many times are different materials, we call them, they become rusty, that is, there is some brownish dark colored mass appears upon them. These are the fungi which grow upon different things when the environment is humid and it's moist. Then comes another group, the phylum Deuteromycota. These are called sometimes also the fungi imperfecti. These are the fungi which have some characteristics which are different from the other fungi, so that we call them fungi imperfecti. Penicillium is one of the most important fungus in this group, and we know that penicillium are the fungi from which scientists derived penicillin, and penicillin was the drug which actually saved more than thousands of lives, we must say hundreds of thousands of lives during the World War II when it was discovered. Before that, people die out of wound infections, and penicillin was the most important ones to treat those infections. So fungi are also source of very important medicines. Here you can see in a diagram a fungus, a bread mold in bread, in and on a bread. We can see the surface of the bread. In the diagram we can see that some part of the fungus, the hyphae, these are present inside the bread, and the some part of this same fungus is present outside of the bread. They are inside of the bread, hyphae are spreaded in the bread. At that place, this collection of hyphae inside will be called a mycelium, and the part which is present outside are actually their spore producing structures. We also call them fruiting bodies. So the hyphae, they are inside, and the spore producing structures, the fruiting bodies, are present outside, and we can see them in the form of a green or a brown rusty colored say scum present on the surface of the bread. Look at another diagram. It shows you the production of actually the process of sexual reproduction in hyphae. When the hyphae of two different mating types, they grow side by side. For example, on a bread, as you have seen in the previous diagram, when they come across, the tips of these branches develop into gametangia. That is, a gamete-like structures. And then the gametangia, they fuse and they make the gametes. These gametes fuse and produce a zygote. Zygote is also called sometimes zygospore. It have 2n number of chromosomes, and this is the structure which is we can see and we can observe in the diagram, which is more harder, and it can face more harsh environments. During the harsh environments, it can survive, and when the favorable conditions come, then this structure, the zygospore, carry out meiosis and produces n number of chromosomes in that is, it divides by meiosis into the cells which have n number of chromosomes, and then they produce the mycelia, which are haploid. Again, fungi, they grow almost everywhere. They are present in most of the humid and dry places all over the world. This is a diverse group. Number of described species in somewhere between 69,000 to 100,000. There is an estimate of about 1.5 million species in total of all the fungi present on the planet Earth. They are present in soil, they are present in water, they are present on foods, they are present in or on animal and plant bodies. There are some special groups of fungi, and we talk about them. Lichens. Lichens are very important groups of fungi. Actually, lichen is a term used for a symbiotic relationship between an algae and a fungi. That is an algal group and a fungal group. The algae, because they are producers, they provide food to the fungi, and fungi give them protection, and they also decomposes various materials which could be used by the algae. Usually these lichens are very stable structures, and they can tolerate harsh environments. Usually whenever after destruction of an old system ecosystem, a new ecosystem is coming into being, then the lichens are usually the very first inhabitants of those ecosystems. We can say they are important reducers and the decomposers of ecosystems. They are heterotrophs, and mainly they decomposes the dead organic matters. They convert these dead organic matters into usable forms for the plants. They are one of the most important decomposers groups on the planet Earth. As we know that the other decomposers are some animals like earthworms, and most of the decomposers, they are bacteria, but fungi are equally important because they are very widely distributed, and they mainly feed upon the dead organic matter, the decaying organic matter. So they are the most important part of the food chain because they have to convert the dead organic matter into those forms which are usable by the producers, the plants. So they make the usable materials available for the plants. They convert sometimes some other materials into less toxic forms as well. As we know that fungi, they are a food source. Mushrooms, most of the people like the salads with the mushrooms. There are various types. Some are very poisonous, some are edible, and those which are edible are grown for making salads and other types of foods. They are very important protein source, in particularly those areas where the animal meat, or we can say the animal source of protein, is scarce or less. These are very important form of proteins, but they are themselves costly because it is difficult to grow these fungi, and this is also difficult to actually identify them from the poisonous species. Causes spoilage of our foods. For example, the bread molds. They cause spoilage of vegetables. They cause spoilage of fruits. So they are beneficial and they are harmful. Certain fungi are also source of medicines. For example, penicillium is a source of medicine. We produce penicillin from the penicillium, which is a fungus. There are many fungi which produces, or we can extract different types of medicines out of them. There is a group of fungi called truffles. These are very commonly used in medicines, and they grow inside the soils. And this is interesting to just know that these produces some specific smell, and these smells could be sensed by the dogs and pigs. So dogs and pigs are, when these fungi are grown in the soil for medicine, for medicinal purposes, the farmers have to use the dogs and the pigs, which actually sense that in which part of the soil, actually inside the soil, the truffles are growing. There are pathogenic fungi. Pathogenic fungi means any organism is called pathogenic when it can cause a disease. There are a lot many pathogenic fungi which are pathogens for plants, which are pathogens for human beings, which are pathogens for animals. We know that different types of fungal skin infections are quite common. In various areas of the world, there are